The discovery. It was a quiet morning in the desolate region of Torith, a place few dared to visit. The land stretched far and wide, covered in endless dust and rocky formations, with no signs of life for miles. Yet it was here, amidst this barren wasteland, that a group of scientists and explorers stumbled upon something that would change everything. The team had been on a routine mission, searching for rare minerals and studying the planet's strange geology. But as the hours passed, something felt off. The air was thick with an odd tension, as if the land itself was hiding a secret, waiting to be uncovered. The usual silence of the desert seemed to grow louder, and every sound seemed to echo off the cliffs in an unsettling way. At first it was just a faint glimmer in the distance, a reflection of light, perhaps from the sun bouncing off a rock. But as the team moved closer, they realized it wasn't a rock at all. It was something far more unusual, something they couldn't explain. Dr. Sarah Allen, the team leader, squinted into the distance as her boots crunched against the dry earth. "There's something ahead," she said, her voice sharp with curiosity. The rest of the team gathered around her, their eyes following her gaze. The glimmer was growing brighter, and soon it became clear that it wasn't natural at all. As they approached, the outline of a massive structure began to emerge from the ground. It wasn't like anything they had ever seen. The shape was sleek and almost otherworldly, as if it belonged to another time, another place. The surface of the structure shimmered under the harsh light of the desert sun, a smooth metallic sheen that seemed to reflect the world around it in strange, distorted ways. The team halted in their tracks. Sarah's heart raced as she tried to comprehend what she was seeing. "What is this?" she whispered, though she knew no one would have an answer. The structure appeared ancient, its surface covered in dust and debris. Yet the more they examined it, the more it seemed to pulse with a life of its own, almost as if it were waiting for them. Tom Harris, one of the junior scientists, stepped forward, his hand shaking as he wiped the sweat from his brow. This can't be man-made," he muttered, his voice filled with awe. "It's too advanced." Sarah nodded slowly, taking in every detail. The structure was unlike anything in their database. It didn't match any known species technology, not even the most advanced alien civilizations they had cataloged. It was as if it had come from a place beyond the reach of time itself. They began to move closer, their footsteps hesitant and cautious. Every inch they took felt like stepping into a new world. They could feel the tension growing in the air. As they neared the structure, they saw that it wasn't just a random object. There were patterns etched into its surface, strange symbols that seemed to swirl in an intricate design, forming shapes and lines that were both beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Look at this," said Dr. Lily Adams, another member of the team, as she brushed her fingers across one of the symbols. It glowed faintly under her touch, and for a moment, the air around them seemed to hum with energy. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. This was no ordinary discovery. "Is it alive?" asked Tom, stepping back. His voice was shaky now, a mix of fear and wonder. Sarah didn't have an answer. It was too soon to know. But she couldn't shake the feeling that they had just uncovered something far bigger than any of them had anticipated, something that would change the course of history. As the team gathered around, each of them lost in their thoughts, Sarah pulled out her scanner. She aimed it at the structure, hoping to gather some readings. But the results were baffling. The scanner couldn't get a clear reading. The material was unlike anything known to them, and it was sending out faint pulses of energy that seemed to disrupt the scanner's calibration. Whatever this was, it wasn't from Earth or anywhere near it. "Should we open it?" Lily asked, her voice a mix of excitement and hesitation. Sarah hesitated. It felt like they were standing on the edge of something monumental. Opening the structure could answer all their questions, or it could lead to something dangerous, something they weren't prepared for. But the allure of discovery was too strong to resist. She could feel it in her bones. "Let's see what happens," Sarah finally said, her voice steady but with a flicker of uncertainty. But be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with here." With cautious movements, the team began to examine the structure, looking for any way to gain access. It didn't take long for them to find a strange indentation on one side. It looked like a door, though it was unlike any door they had ever seen. The edges were smooth, with no visible handles or hinges, just an open, flat surface that beckoned them closer. Tom reached out, his fingers trembling as he pressed against the surface. To their surprise, it began to shift. The door opened slowly, as if the structure itself were coming alive. The hum in the air grew louder, almost deafening, as the doorway revealed a dark, narrow passage inside. For a moment, the team stood frozen, staring into the unknown. There was a sense of dread and wonder mixed together, as if they had just crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Sarah took a deep breath. "This is it," she said quietly. "Let's go." One by one, they stepped through the doorway, venturing into the darkness of the unknown. As the last of them entered, the door closed silently behind them, and the structure seemed to hum with an even greater intensity. They had entered a place where no human had ever been, and whatever lay ahead would change the course of humanity forever. The ancient artifact. Inside the dark passage, the team was engulfed in an eerie silence. As their eyes adjusted to the dim light, they found themselves in a vast chamber, the walls towering high above them. The room felt like it had been untouched for centuries, yet the air carried a strange energy that pulsed through the space. It was as if time had stood still within these walls, waiting for them to arrive. The floor beneath their feet was smooth and cold, made of an unknown material that shimmered faintly, as though it held a secret waiting to be unlocked. In the center of the room, lying in the middle of a raised platform, was the artifact. It was beautiful in a way that made their hearts race with both excitement and fear. It was an orb, glowing with a soft, otherworldly light, suspended within a delicate frame of what appeared to be some sort of metallic threads. The light radiated from it like a heartbeat, pulsing slowly, almost as if it were alive. Is this what we've been looking for?" Tom whispered, his voice filled with awe as he took a cautious step toward the artifact. Sarah, the team leader, nodded slowly, but there was a look of uncertainty in her eyes. "I don't know," she replied, "but this is definitely not anything we've seen before." The team moved closer, their footsteps muffled on the strange floor. As they approached, the orb seemed to react, the light within it flickering brighter, almost as if acknowledging their presence. The air grew heavier, the temperature in the room dropping by several degrees. It was as though the artifact was aware of their every movement, reacting to them, drawing them in. Lily was the first to reach the platform. Her hand hovered over the orb, a mix of fascination and fear in her eyes. "Do we touch it?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What if it activates something we can't control?" Before Sarah could answer, the orb pulsed again, this time sending a ripple of energy through the room. The team felt it, an almost tangible force that made the hairs on their arms stand on end. A soft hum filled the air, and suddenly, they heard a voice. It wasn't a voice they could hear with their ears, but one that seemed to echo within their minds, a whisper of a language no human had ever spoken. It was faint at first, like a distant memory trying to surface. The symbols on the walls, previously faint and incomprehensible, now began to glow, shifting and rearranging themselves in response to the orb. A strange understanding washed over Sarah. These weren't just alien markings, they were instructions that seemed to be written just for them. She stepped forward, her fingers grazing the orb. The moment she touched it, a surge of energy shot through her. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming. Her vision blurred, and in that instant, she saw flashes of images. Alien landscapes, distant stars, and incredible technologies, each one more advanced than anything Earth had ever dreamed of. Then, in the blink of an eye, it all stopped, leaving her breathless and dazed. "Are you all right?" Tom's voice broke through her haze, his face etched with concern. Sarah blinked and shook her head, trying to steady herself. The images faded, but the sense of awe and fear remained. She wasn't sure what had just happened, but something deep inside her told her that the artifact was far more than just a piece of alien technology. It was something ancient, something designed for a purpose far beyond their understanding. The others were now gathered around her, their eyes wide as they waited for an explanation. But Sarah was silent, unsure of how to explain what she had just seen. I think it's more than we ever imagined," she said finally, her voice quiet, almost reverent. "It's not just technology. It's a message." "From the aliens?" Laylee asked, her voice full of disbelief. "A message? What kind of message?" Sarah didn't have the answer, but she could feel the weight of something important pressing down on her. The orb was calling to them, urging them to unlock its secrets. The hum in the air grew louder, and the symbols on the walls seemed to move again, shifting in a pattern that made sense, like a code being cracked. "Let's continue," Sarah said, her voice more determined now. "We need to understand this. We need to know why they left this behind." With that, the team began to explore the room more thoroughly. They carefully examined every inch of the walls, noting the symbols, which were now glowing brightly, almost as if alive. As Sarah studied them, something clicked. There was a pattern to the symbols, a rhythm to their arrangement. It was almost like a language, an alien language that had been lost to time. But now it was slowly being deciphered by their minds. Lily pointed to a set of symbols near the far wall. "Look at this," she said. "This doesn't just look like a language. It's a map." The map was unlike any they had ever seen, showing stars, planets, and distant galaxies that were not part of their known universe. It depicted a journey across the stars, one that spanned countless millennia, leading to this very moment. It was as if the aliens had left a trail for them to follow, a trail that would lead them to something greater. "Are we supposed to follow this?" Tom asked, his voice filled with wonder and uncertainty. Sarah stood in front of the map, her mind racing with possibilities. "I don't know," she replied. "But I think we've just unlocked something far more important than we realize." As the team stood there, the artifact pulsed again, its glow brightening in time with their heartbeat. It was calling to them, urging them to take the next step, to follow the map, to discover what had been left behind. But deep down, Sarah knew that once they took that step, there would be no turning back. The team was on the verge of something extraordinary, but they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being led into the unknown, a journey that could either save humanity or destroy it. And as the artifact continued to hum, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, what had the aliens left behind, and why had they chosen humans to uncover its secrets? Unraveling the past. As the days passed, the team worked tirelessly to decode the alien artifact. The orb, now nestled in a protective containment unit, continued to pulse with an eerie rhythm, as if it were alive, waiting, watching, and guiding them. The symbols on the walls of the chamber had been meticulously analyzed, but their meaning remained elusive. The alien language was sophisticated, almost poetic, and the more they studied it, the more they realized they were not just uncovering technology, but a lost history, a history that reached far beyond their own understanding. The team set up a makeshift lab inside the chamber, their equipment buzzing with activity. But no matter how hard they tried, the deeper they went into the artifact's mysteries, the more questions they had. Sarah spent countless hours studying the symbols, but it felt like the answers were just out of reach. Then, one night, while poring over an old data log from their initial scans, Sarah noticed something different. A faint signal, barely perceptible, pulsed through her screen. It was a pattern, a familiar pattern that seemed to correspond with the symbols they had been studying. Her pulse quickened as she keyed in the sequence, feeling the room around her shift in response. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, without warning, the symbols on the screen began to rearrange themselves, forming new shapes, new words, ones she could read. It was like a doorway had opened in her mind. The message was clear. This is not the beginning. It is the end. But the end leads to a new beginning. Sarah leaned back in her chair, her heart racing. The message echoed in her mind, its meaning far more profound than anything they had encountered so far. The aliens had left behind something not just technological, but deeply philosophical. It was as if they were trying to tell humanity something urgent, and yet impossibly cryptic. The past, the message seemed to say, was not just a series of events. It was a cycle. And humanity, it seemed, was meant to be part of that cycle. The team gathered around the glowing screen, each one reading the message in awe. Tom, his voice barely a whisper, broke the silence. "What do you think it means?" Sarah's mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of knowledge they had gathered so far. "I think the aliens were trying to warn us," she said slowly. "Warn us that whatever we're about to uncover has been buried for a reason, and that reason could change everything we know about the universe." The room grew colder as the weight of her words settled over them. The past was alive in this place, and the secrets they were uncovering had been hidden for millennia, perhaps even longer. But why? Why had these beings, who were clearly far more advanced than humanity, left behind such powerful clues? Lily, who had been quietly examining some additional data, looked up with a sudden realization. Wait, the artifact isn't just an object. It's a key to understanding the alien civilization. If we follow the map, if we understand the symbols, we might be able to piece together their entire history. They left us a blueprint for everything they've learned. And maybe we'll understand why they disappeared. Her words hung in the air, thick with possibility. What if this artifact wasn't just a tool, but a message about survival? What if the aliens had created it as a final record of their civilization, something that would not only explain their rise, but also their fall? A shiver ran down Sarah's spine as the realization hit her. The aliens hadn't just vanished. They had planned for this. They had planned for someone to come after them, to unlock their secrets. And now, humanity was on the brink of discovering not just alien technology, but a truth that could either save or destroy them. Sarah stood up, her mind racing. "We have to go further. We can't stop now. This is just the beginning." The team set to work with renewed urgency. They were on the edge of uncovering something so profound that it could change the course of human history. Yet, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were moving too quickly, rushing into the unknown without truly understanding what they were about to unleash. The deeper they went into the artifact's data, the more they uncovered, each new discovery pushing them closer to an understanding of the alien species. They learned that the aliens, who called themselves the Sirentfall, were not just explorers, but conquerors of the stars. Their civilization had once spanned galaxies, their technology far surpassing anything humanity could imagine. But the Sirentfall had fallen silent. They had left behind not just a warning, but a message encoded into the fabric of the universe itself. Their rise had been swift and glorious, but their fall had been equally catastrophic. And then, the team uncovered something truly chilling. An ancient hologram, once hidden deep within the artifact's core, flickered to life on one of their screens. The hologram showed the Sirentfall in their prime, majestic and powerful, standing before a great cosmic gateway, their hands raised in a final act of defiance. The image was accompanied by a haunting voice, speaking in a language they could barely comprehend, but the emotion was clear. Fear. The voice spoke of a great force, a darkness that had come from the depths of space, a force that had consumed everything in its path. It had wiped out entire civilizations, and now it was approaching again. The Sirentfall had left this message behind, hoping that one day, someone, perhaps humanity, would understand and prepare for the coming darkness. Sarah's blood ran cold as the hologram faded into silence. The Sirentfall were not just gone, they had been destroyed. And the reason why was now clear. The very force that had ended their civilization was returning, and humanity was standing on the precipice of that same fate. But there was hope. The Serenthal had left behind their knowledge, their warnings, their legacy. And now it was up to humanity to decide whether to embrace it or to ignore it. The past had been uncovered, and it was up to them to ensure that history did not repeat itself. The awakening. The atmosphere in the chamber had shifted. What had once felt like an isolated, forgotten relic of the past now hummed with an energy that was undeniable, almost magnetic. The artifact, the orb that had sparked their curiosity and fear, was no longer just a dormant object. It was something far greater, something more alive than they could have imagined. And as the days passed, the team began to realize that their presence here, their touching of the artifact, had awakened something deep within it. Something ancient, something powerful. Sarah stood at the front of the chamber, her eyes fixed on the orb. It seemed to pulse with life, the glow from within shifting in rhythm with the team's own heartbeat. The more time they spent with it, the more they noticed its strange, almost sentient behavior. When they approached it, it flickered in response, as though it were aware of their movements. When they backed away, it dimmed slightly, as if it were reluctant to let them go. "This doesn't feel like just a machine," Lily murmured, her voice barely audible as she observed the orb. It's communicating with us. Some part of it is alive." The others turned to look at her, sharing uneasy glances. It had been growing harder to deny what they had all been sensing. The artifact wasn't a simple tool. It had its own energy, its own pulse, as though it were more than just an alien object. The feeling was creeping into Sarah's mind, gnawing at her thoughts like a whisper in the dark. The orb was aware of them, and it was waiting for something. "Maybe it's reacting to us," Sarah said, more to herself than to the others. She took a cautious step forward, her fingers hovering just above the orb's smooth surface. "Maybe it knows what we're trying to do." The moment her hand made contact, the reaction was immediate. The orb's glow brightened, nearly blinding them with its intensity. A low, deep hum vibrated through the chamber, like the beginning of a storm. The walls seemed to shift, the patterns on the surface flickering and rearranging. The room itself felt alive, the very air thickening with an unknown presence. And then, suddenly, there was a voice. It wasn't a voice that they could hear with their ears, but a presence that filled their minds. It was clear, yet foreign, as though it had been waiting for them to reach this point. The voice didn't speak in words. They were feelings, concepts, ideas, but they were crystal clear to Sarah. She could hear it, understand it, as if it had always been a part of her. "You are not alone. You were never meant to be alone." Sarah recoiled, her hand jerking back from the orb. The team gasped, their eyes wide, but they had all felt it. The presence, the voice. It wasn't just coming from the orb, but from everywhere. It was as if the very fabric of the chamber was alive with it. The voice continued, its tone gentle yet powerful. "We are the Serenthal. We have been waiting. You are the ones who will fulfill what we began." Tom looked toward Sarah, his face pale. "What is it saying? What does it mean?" Sarah swallowed hard, trying to process the overwhelming flood of information rushing into her mind. The voice was still there, lingering in the background of her thoughts, pulling her deeper into its message. "They're the Serenthal," she whispered, her voice trembling. "The same species we've been learning about. The ones who vanished." Lily took a step forward, her expression a mix of fascination and fear. "But why us? Why now?" The orb seemed to respond, its glow pulsing again. But this time it was different. The energy in the room intensified, swirling with the power of a force greater than they had ever experienced. The walls began to shift, revealing an intricate holographic display. Stars, planets, and constellations moving in a slow dance across the surface. It was a map, but not just of the known universe. This map stretched into unknown regions of space, areas where no human had ever ventured. "The darkness is coming. The cycle will repeat," the voice continued. "You must be ready. You must understand what we left behind. The knowledge is here. It is within you. All that we have seen, all that we have learned, is yours to carry. You are the stewards now." The words resonated within Sarah, sending chills down her spine. The weight of responsibility, of being chosen, was almost unbearable. The Sarenthal had left behind not just technology, but their legacy. They had placed their hopes in humanity, in the people who would follow their path. But what if humanity was not ready for the task they had been given? What does it mean? Tom asked again, his voice rising with panic. What are we supposed to do? How can we? The orb's glow brightened one last time, cutting him off, as though it had understood his fear. And in that instant, the team saw something strange. The map they were staring at began to blur. One part of the map, the farthest reaches of space, began to glow with an intensity that made them squint. The map's lines twisted, reshaped, and a single word appeared, burning brightly against the dark background. The end. It was an apocalypse, a final destination, a reckoning. The Sarenthal had been running from it, trying to outrun the inevitable. They had left behind their knowledge and their warnings. And now, it was humanity's turn to face what the Sarenthal had feared. The voice, calm yet final, echoed in Sarah's mind one last time. The awakening has begun. The future is yours. Do not fail. Then the orb went silent. The energy in the room dissipated, leaving the team in a stunned, reverent silence. The map faded, and the walls returned to their quiet, still state. But the team was no longer the same. They were changed. They had learned something they could never forget. Sarah, trembling, finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "We've been chosen. To do what? I don't know. But it's up to us now." They had awakened something ancient, something beyond human comprehension. But they had also inherited a legacy of the Sarenthal, their knowledge, and the knowledge of the darkness that would come. It was a future they could no longer ignore. And the question that hung in the air, unspoken, was whether they would be able to face it. The warning. The chamber was silent now, save for the soft hum of the artifact, its glow fading to a soft pulse that matched the beating of their hearts. The team stood frozen, unsure of how to process what had just happened. The message from the Sarenthal had shaken them to their core, and now there was a heavy weight in the air, a sense of dread that was impossible to ignore. They had been chosen, yes, but for what? To preserve the legacy of a fallen civilization, to uncover the secrets of the universe, or perhaps to face something far more terrifying. Sarah's mind raced as she turned to the others, her thoughts fragmented. The last words from the orb echoed in her mind. Do not fail. What did that mean? And what exactly were they being tasked with? The promise of unimaginable knowledge, of unlocking the secrets of the universe, had come with a warning. The end was near. Tom shifted uneasily beside her, his hands clenched into fists. We need to figure out what's coming. The Sarenthal couldn't just be warning us about some random threat. Whatever's coming, it's real. Lily spoke up, her voice tinged with uncertainty. But how do we even begin? The map, the stars. It's all too much. And what about this? Darkness. It was a force, a kind of power that wiped out their entire civilization. If we don't understand what that is, we're just stumbling in the dark. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. The weight of their discovery had settled heavily upon her. But despite the fear that churned in her gut, there was something else, an undeniable pull toward the unknown, a desire to understand. They had come this far, uncovered so much already. They couldn't turn back now. We're not alone in this, Sarah said, more to herself than to the team. The Sarenthal left us a blueprint, a roadmap. There's more to this. We just need to keep going, dig deeper. We need to understand what happened to them and what's coming for us. But as Sarah spoke, she couldn't shake the growing sense of unease. The map they had uncovered, The map that had shown the farthest reaches of space, the darkened regions where the end was marked, wasn't just a geographical chart. It felt like a prophecy, something that had been set in motion long before their arrival. The stars in that section weren't just distant, they were nearing. And the shadows in that part of the galaxy, whatever they were closing in. It was then that they noticed something else. The orb's glow had faded to a low pulse, but it wasn't silent. There was a rhythmic thumping, like a heartbeat, emanating from the heart of the artifact. A low, rumbling sound that filled the room, vibrating through their bones. It was different from the humming they had heard before. It felt urgent. And then a holographic map flickered back to life. But this time, it wasn't showing distant stars. It was showing Earth. The planet was glowing red, the continents distorted and shifting, as if in a state of constant change. There were lines, thin, bright lines, sprouting out from Earth, stretching across the stars. Some of the lines connected with distant worlds, while others led into the deep blackness of space, far beyond the edge of known galaxies. But the most chilling part was the darkness creeping toward Earth. It was a shadow, vast and all-encompassing, moving slowly but steadily toward them. Lily gasped as she stepped back, her face pale. "It's coming here. It's already on its way." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The map wasn't just a warning of some distant fate. It was a real-time, living map, one that showed the approach of the very force that had destroyed the Serenfall. And it was heading straight for Earth. "What is that thing?" Tom asked, his voice filled with both fear and awe. "What is this force?" The orb pulsed again, brighter this time, as if it were trying to answer. Sarah could feel the pressure in her chest, a sense of impending doom. The warning had been clear from the beginning. The end was coming. The Serenfall had known it, and they had left behind their knowledge as both a gift and a desperate plea for survival. But had they truly left a solution, or had they simply given humanity the knowledge of its fate? "We need to act," Sarah said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "This isn't something we can ignore. Whatever this darkness is, it's real, and it's coming for us." Lily looked at the map again, her brow furrowed in thought. But how do we stop it? The Serenfall were destroyed. Their civilization is gone. What could we possibly do to stop something that wiped them out? The words hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. The Serenfall had been powerful, too powerful to be destroyed by anything less than a force beyond comprehension. What hope did humanity have against such an unstoppable enemy? They didn't have their technology, their weapons, their knowledge. All they had were these remnants, these fragile clues that might not even be enough to prepare them. But the urgency in Sarah's chest flared again. They had to try. "We don't know enough yet," she said, shaking her head. "But we have to keep going. The Serenfall left us this knowledge for a reason. There's something here we're missing. A way to fight back, a way to survive." As she spoke, the orb pulsed again, its light flickering as if in agreement. The warning was clear, but the solution remained elusive. And yet there was still hope, a glimmer of understanding that had yet to fully reveal itself. For now, they had no answers. But one thing was certain: they had been chosen for a reason, and that reason was to stop the darkness before it was too late. The decision. The days had blurred together, each one feeling heavier than the last. The artifact continued to pulse with a low, steady hum, its glow casting an eerie light across the chamber. Sarah had barely slept, her mind consumed by the weight of the knowledge they had uncovered and the looming presence of the darkness drawing closer. The map, once a distant and abstract concept, now felt like a countdown, a grim reminder that time was running out. As the team gathered in the makeshift command center, the tension was palpable. Each member of the group was feeling the strain, but none more so than Sarah. The message from the Serenfall was clear. Humanity had been chosen to face the darkness, but how? How could they hope to survive when they were so ill-prepared? The alien race that had once ruled the stars had been destroyed, And now, they had only fragments of their knowledge to rely on. Lily's voice broke the silence. We've learned so much already, but it feels like we're still in the dark. The artifact keeps showing us pieces of the puzzle, but it doesn't give us the full picture. It's like we're standing on the edge of something huge, but we don't know which direction to step in. Tom nodded, his hands clenched around his datavat. We know that the Saren Fall couldn't stop this force, but they left us a warning, a map, a path. Maybe we're meant to follow it, to find whatever they left behind. Sarah turned away from them, her gaze fixed on the map projected before her. The glowing lines connected stars, planets, and distant galaxies, but one region stood out more than the rest. The shadow was creeping closer to Earth, almost like an inevitable storm. And yet, there was something else, something buried within the lines of the map, deep in the vast expanse of space that beckoned them. It was a place marked as the last stand. The words were clear, as if etched into the fabric of the universe itself. Sarah's heart raced. Was it a location, a base, a hidden weapon the Saren Fall had left behind? Or was it a trap? Could they trust what they were seeing? The questions weighed heavily on her mind, each one more dangerous than the last. Sarah, Tom said, his voice quiet but urgent. What if there's nothing there? What if it's just another dead end? We don't even know what this last stand is. It could be just a name, a final symbol of their last hope. But we don't have the luxury of blindly following something we don't understand. Sarah felt a pang of doubt, but she quickly pushed it aside. Time was running out. They couldn't afford to hesitate. She turned to face the team, her resolve firm but her voice filled with uncertainty. We don't know what we'll find. But I do know one thing. If we do nothing, the darkness will come for us, and we'll be wiped out just like the Saren Fall. We can't let that happen. Lily crossed her arms, her expression thoughtful. But we don't even know how to fight this thing. The Saren Fall couldn't defeat it. Maybe they left us this knowledge because they wanted us to survive, not to confront it. Maybe we're not supposed to fight. But we can't just wait and hope it doesn't reach us, Sarah insisted, her voice growing more intense. We've uncovered enough to know that this force is unstoppable. We can't hide from it. We have to face it, even if we don't understand everything yet. If the Saren Fall were able to leave behind a last-ditch effort, something they thought would help us, then we have to find it. If there's even a chance we can turn the tide, we have to take it. Tom met Sarah's gaze, his eyes filled with doubt and fear. And what if there's nothing there? What if we find a ruin, a graveyard of a dead species, with nothing left to help us? What then? Are we just supposed to throw ourselves into the unknown, hoping that we'll find something to fight with? Sarah swallowed hard. The fear in Tom's voice mirrored her own, but she couldn't back down. Not now. We don't have a choice, she said, her voice quiet but resolute. If we don't try, we've already lost. Lily stepped forward, her face tight with tension. I agree with Sarah. We have to try. But we need to prepare for the worst. We need to know what we're walking into. If the Saren Fall failed, we can't assume their solution will be perfect for us. We have to go in with our eyes wide open. The room fell into a heavy silence. The weight of their decision hung over them like a storm cloud, ready to break. What if they were making a terrible mistake? What if they were walking into the jaws of certain death, following a path that led only to despair? They couldn't afford to be naive. They couldn't afford to ignore the warning signs. We'll take the map, and we'll follow it, Sarah said finally, her voice firm. We'll prepare for everything. And when we get to the last stand, we'll be ready for whatever we find. It may not be a weapon, but it might be something else. A way to stop the darkness, or at least delay it long enough for us to find a real solution. Tom hesitated for a moment, but then, with a sigh, he nodded. All right, but we need to be realistic. We might not make it out. We might not even find what we're looking for. But if we don't try, then everything we've discovered will have been for nothing. Lily took a deep breath, her hands tightening into fists. Then we make sure we don't fail. We have to be the ones to change the course of history. The Serenfall tried, and they couldn't. Now it's our turn. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she gazed at the map once more. The dark shadow on the edge of the galaxy was growing, but the path to the last stand was clear. There was no turning back now. They were on the brink of a choice that would define the future of humanity. To face the unknown, to follow the path laid out before them, and hope that the answers they sought were waiting in the vast reaches of space, or to turn back, to remain safe on Earth, and pray that the darkness would pass them by. It was no longer a question of whether they should go. It was a question of whether they had the courage to take that first step into the unknown. The unforeseen consequences. The journey to the last stand was long, filled with uncertainty and tension. The team had followed the map without hesitation, the weight of their decision pressing down on them every step of the way. The darkness, which had once felt like an abstract concept, now loomed closer with every passing moment. Their destination was ahead, a mysterious location on a distant planet, one that the Serenfall had marked as the final hope. But with every new discovery, the stakes seemed to rise, and the unease within the team grew. When they finally arrived, the planet they landed on was nothing like what they had expected. The surface was barren, covered in jagged cliffs and deep, dark ravines. The atmosphere was thin, but breathable, a remnant of a world once teeming with life. The winds howled through the empty landscape, carrying with it the ghosts of a civilization long gone. The team had expected something different. An advanced base, a hidden city, a weapon. But what they found was far more cryptic. They set up camp near the edge of a vast, ancient structure, half buried under centuries of dust and decay. It was a massive alien city, built into the side of a mountain. The walls were adorned with symbols they'd seen before, symbols that matched the markings on the artifact. The entire place seemed abandoned, forgotten by time, yet there was something about it that felt alive. There was an energy here, pulsing in the air like the remnants of a long-forgotten heartbeat. As they ventured deeper into the ruins, their equipment began to malfunction. Communication devices shorted out. Navigation tools became erratic. It was as if the planet itself was blocking their attempts to understand it, hiding its true nature from them. But the further they went, the more the atmosphere shifted. The air grew heavy, thick with something that couldn't be explained. There was an unmistakable tension, as though they were being washed. Sarah, leading the group into the heart of the ruins, felt the first hint of true fear in her chest. The sensation had been growing stronger as they moved, but now it was undeniable. Something was wrong. The structure, for all its alien beauty, felt like a trap, as if they were walking into the final act of a story that had already been written, a story they had no control over. "We need to be careful," Sarah whispered, her voice tight. "This place isn't what we thought it would be." The others nodded, but the sense of foreboding couldn't be ignored. Their footsteps echoed through the empty halls as they moved deeper into the structure. The walls were covered in alien glyphs, but this time they were different, more complex, more cryptic, as though the final message had been encoded here, waiting for them to decipher it. It was then that they found it. At the center of the ruins, in a vast chamber illuminated by strange, bioluminescent stones embedded in the walls, stood an ancient machine. It was enormous, far beyond anything the team had ever seen, an obelisk of twisted metal and glowing energy. The air around it crackled with power. Sarah approached cautiously, the hum of the device vibrating through her bones. "This is it," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "The Serenfall's last hope." Lily stepped forward, her eyes scanning the machine. "But it doesn't look like a weapon. It's something else." Tom stepped closer, his fingers brushing the surface of the machine. The moment he touched it, a shockwave of energy surged through the room. The walls trembled, and for a split second, The team was thrown off balance. The hum grew louder, and then something unexpected happened. The machine began to glow, and the symbols on the walls flickered to life. But then, a chilling realization dawned on Sarah. The symbols were not just reacting to the machine, they were reacting to them. This wasn't the Serenfall's final attempt to stop the darkness. It was their final attempt to call it. The artifact, the map, the cryptic warnings, all of it had led them here, not to a weapon, but to a beacon. A beacon that was meant to summon the darkness, to draw it in. The Serenfall had not left a solution for survival, they had left a call for the end. And now, they had unknowingly activated it. The machine pulsed brighter, and in the distance, the team heard a low rumble. It wasn't just the earth shaking, it was the fabric of space itself trembling. The sky above, once clear, began to darken, and the distant stars flickered as if they were dying. "No," Sarah whispered, her heart pounding in her chest. "No, this isn't what we were meant to do." Lily stumbled back, her face pale. We've made a terrible mistake." The map had never been a guide to survival. It had been a map to destruction, a path that would lead the darkness straight to Earth, just as the Serenfall had feared. The final act of their civilization had not been an attempt to fight back. It had been an invitation. And now, that invitation was being answered. The ground beneath them trembled violently as the air grew thick with energy. The very planet seemed to be reacting to the beacon they had activated. Sarah's mind raced, trying to process the terrifying truth. They had unleashed something far worse than they had imagined, a force that could tear apart everything in its path, a force that could consume not just worlds, but entire galaxies. They had thought they were the inheritors of the Serenfall's legacy, the ones who would save humanity. But in their haste, they had misinterpreted the signs. They had followed the wrong path. And now, it was too late to turn back. With horror, Sarah turned to the team. "We have to stop this. We have to deactivate the machine before it's too late. Whatever the Serenfall intended, we can't let this happen." But as she spoke, the machine's hum reached a deafening pitch, and the ground cracked open beneath their feet. The sky above was no longer just darkening. It was being consumed by an unnatural shadow, a vast, inky void that spread across the horizon. The darkness had come, and there was no turning back now.